All right. This is your creation. My name is Adam Starseed Bey. How's everyone doing today? Holy moly. I was trying to go live earlier and it just was not working. My computer kept freezing up. And it's interesting too because of the titles I chose here and what I'm going to be talking about today. So does that have something to do with freezing up computers? It's hard to say. But basically we're going to be talking about just the viewpoints of the world and kind of the political strategies that go behind this stuff. I don't really love to give energy. I don't like to give energy to this stuff. I don't. But sometimes you have to talk about this stuff to present it out there because people are so obsessed with it. From political standpoint, they're obsessed with global warming, with the nuclear stuff, with atomics, atoms, genetics, DNA manipulation, power struggles, and trafficking, and all this stuff. They're obsessed with it. They focus on it, and because of that, a lot of people's YouTube channels and Twitter and all that stuff, they focus on that stuff too. They are obsessed with it. They get 50,000 views, 100,000 views, whatever it is. The more you talk about Illuminati and all the politics of the world, the more views you get. And the reason behind that is because this world is ran. It's ran by. It's stupid, man. It really is. But basically that's what we're talking about. The wall, the Great Wall. That's a huge symbolism right there. I mean, it's getting pretty bad. I mean, it's already gotten to where Trump is already talking about just taking people's money, basically, just saying it's a national emergency. And they're just going to build this wall. He's determined to build this wall before his presidency is up. But it's hidden symbolism too. And I was trying to find an image, and I think that's what was messing up my computer. And the Great Wall of China popped up, and it dawned on me the symbolisms behind that, right? Because I mean the U.S. has been supposedly battling over China over wow, that was weird. Over trading, right? Over trading. So the Great Wall of China. So what better way to look good than to the United States to create their wall as well, right? A wall of dominance, a wall of superiority, right? There's so many symbolisms behind this. It's not to keep. I don't know why, and I talked about this before, why Mexico was such a huge ordeal. But like I said, there's so much trading that goes on there. Human trafficking and all that stuff migrates from there. So I mean, you build a wall, is that going to stop that? Or is there something more to it? I really do feel that there's a lot of things unfolding. And I heard, and it looks like my video on YouTube might be having issues here. Like I said, I'm having computer issues. But it sounds like they want to build that wall all the way to this to California, to San Diego borderline, which is bizarre in itself. I've talked about that too. Is that these big cities, New York, Los Angeles, and all that stuff, Washington, always seems to be the focus of where these events take place. Recently, last week in LA, there's these booms that are going on around the world. You look it up, you do research on it. There's these booms going on everywhere. I've heard the booms just right out here in Wyoming. So it's everywhere. But what ended up happening is that they had these black psyop helicopters flying around. There was I think 5 or 8 of them, somewhere around there, and they were flying around LA all night long. and people didn't know what was going on, right? You know, and people say, you know, it's because of the booms, but they were saying it was they were doing drills. They were doing drills. But it was just bizarre. You know, I mean, it's okay to do drills and everything, but you know, there's just there's something more to it. And if you check out Secure Team on YouTube, and yeah, he gets lots of views, but he brings a lot of good evidence to back up. Like I said, you know, that's the process between fake news and real news, is if you bring all the facts together, you're onto something. And you know, there's definitely something going on. All these PSYOP things, you know, there's a reason behind it. There's a reason why they're building a wall. There's a reason why they use these code words, like climate change, global warming, the wall, nuclear, atomic. I'm trying to be careful what I say here, but they're all code words, and that's what I've been doing research on. It just kind of grew, builded upon things. Hidden meanings behind all of these things, as well as scriptures as well, that kind of back all this stuff up. So yeah, that was a long introduction there. Holy cow. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about. Hey, how's it going, Danny? So anyways, if this is the first time watching me, I am on Facebook and YouTube. I mean, YouTube, definitely like, subscribe, share out. I talk about many different things, from what's going on in the world, from spirit, and just many different interesting things, you know, that we have to really talk about, you know, and bring it into a way that's mature, and to further research. You know, that's the process of how this stuff works, is research. And people seem to fail to realize, you know, you know, don't just jump up and say, hey, I got it. Hey, I got it. You know, it's we have to learn how to work together and learn on how to talk about this stuff without saying, well, you know, we got this going on. Well, we got this going on. You know, we just got to look at ways to unite and talk about these matters in a mature way. So yeah. So anyways, yeah. So definitely like, subscribe to the channel. I am on Facebook.com/RealTalkAdam Starseed Bey. That's the main page. You can get a hold of me. So if you need to talk to me or whatnot, definitely like the page, share it out. Questions, concerns, that's where to get a hold of me. I am also on Patreon.com/RealTalkAdam Starseed, or Adam Starseed Bey. It's still a work in progress, but it is there for you guys if you are interested. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna kind of look at some of these words. Climate change, and I was trying to find it again. I also watch Jacob Israel on YouTube as well. Again, he brings a lot of good facts to back up what he talks about. But he was talking about climate change, and I looked it up, and there's many different ways on how you can utilize that word. And spirituality came into it, but I can't seem to find it anymore. But basically, the dictionary is going to be your best friend. In any research you do, the dictionary is your best friend, and it really narrows down words and what people mean and how to be smart about how you use your words. And that's how politicians talk. So with climate, you get many different things, from meteorological conditions, including temperature, wind, so on and so forth. It's also a region of the earth having a different weather changes as well, whether it be supreme or severe cold or severe hot. But this is an interesting one. A prevailing condition or set of attitudes in human affairs. A condition or set of attitudes in human affairs. Hence, climate change. So human affairs is rising up, right? It's rising up. People are waking up. People are rising up. Their hearts are awakening. Their spirit is awakening. So therefore, the temperature of people are rising up, right? Are rising up. And that, to me, stuck out when I was looking up these words. human affairs. So, these politicians or political garbage, when they talk about climate change, it's not the weather they're concerned about. It's the human potential, or that spiritual potential of rising up, of taking over their kingdom. That's their concern, is climate change. And that's just something that was really interesting, because the Spirit will guide you into these things and just kind of have you focus on this stuff. And I've been really trying to talk about this, but I just didn't really have the time to do it. So it makes you think differently when they talk about climate change. It's not the weather. It's what they're fearing, is the humans rising up, or the Spirit, or the Christ energy rising up. What else we got here? I think that's pretty much it for climate change. But I found that rather interesting on how that definition was in there for the word climate. Very interesting. Let's see what else we got here. Global warming, same thing. It talks about concerns around the world. Let's see, Danny says sources and inner knowing is key to everything. Yep. And at the end of the day, that's what Christ said. I am. The power of I am. Look within the I am. Look within the self. Go into that inner temple, and have a conversation with God, or have a conversation with Christ, and learn and grow and mature spiritually. You'll be guided to where you need to be in life. And that's one of the key elements that we have to learn for ourselves, because the churches don't teach you that. They want us to look outside self. They want us to have a physical God, which would be like a pope, or a president, or things of that nature. That's what's going on in China right now, is that they want their leader to be the God and nothing else. So they've been tearing down churches and throwing pastors in prison, and anybody who was following these pastors, so basically trying to live out a biblical Armageddon, right? A biblical Armageddon. Saying, we're going to get thrown in jail or prison because of our beliefs in a God, or our beliefs in Christ. So, China's really forcing that upon their people, which is quite fascinating and sad at the same time. But global warming is a thing you really got to do research on. I've talked to my mom with this. It's just it's frustrating on how people really over exaggerate things, because we got the internet. And it's wrestling always comes into play. WWE wrestling, and how they script everything. They already have everything pre-planned on who wins, who loses, things of that nature. But it's the entertainment value that's behind it that draws you in, right? That draws you in. And that's kind of what the internet is that it draws you in. Those who lack knowledge and wisdom are going to fall for the shock value of the news, right? For the shock value of the news. And it happens every year. Oh, this is going to be the coldest winter. Oh, this is going to be the hottest summer, right? We hear that all the time. And my computer just froze. Holy moly. All right. Hopefully this is still going. I'm gonna have to find out what's making my computer slow. But yeah, so and it happens every year, and it's gonna happen again. I mean, it's always gonna be the same thing. California's gonna have their fires. New York's probably gonna have their warning and flash floods. They already tried to promote the. I guess there was a snowstorm in Hawaii somewhere over there, and they were saying there was a resort that closed down or something like that. I got a friend in Hawaii, Michael Basham, and I was going to talk to him and see if there really is a snowstorm around that area, right? And that's where we just got to do research. We have to be our own journalists in this and discover things for ourselves. You know, we can't just assume, and that's why it's hard. That's why I made that video before this one, the real news, fake news, is that they, oh man, my computer is really having issues here. That's all right. Is they make sure in their news that they have a person to back up the news, you know, a news anchor and everything of that nature, to back up their claim. Well, once you start doing research and you listen to testimonies of what's going on, it's not what it is, but it's going to be labeled fake news. Be like, well, CNN said this and Fox News said this, so you know that's the real news. A YouTuber, they don't know what they're talking about, and things of that nature. So yeah, it's quite interesting. But yeah, it looks like when we're having issues on the YouTube one, that's all right. So yeah, so global warming. I mean, if you do research, you could do research into 1800s, 1700s, so on and so forth. You can have records on snowstorms and heat waves and things of that nature, and you realize the on how it's a wave, it's a pattern. It's every 7 years. If you really look at that, it's about every 7 years we have some kind of change in the weather. You know, and as I was growing up, I seen those patterns, right? We would have huge winter storms, where the snow would be up to like the waist, right? And then, hey, how's it going, Allie? And then other times in December, it would be 40, 50 degrees outside. And I'd be like, Mom, what is this? It's December. Why is it not snowing? I don't know. So, you know, it's the same thing, and it happens all the time. You know, the same pattern's been going on for a while now. You know, January is always the coldest part in Wyoming. Well, this year it's actually been February. At least the beginning of February was the coldest compared to January. So now we're going to start seeing a difference, a pattern of the weather changing. So of course they're going to be exposing this element of global warming again. But again, like I said, you know, we talk about climate change, which means the rising or what was it again? Hold on here. Oh, my computer's freezing up, man. Oh man. All right, let me open this up. I probably won't be able to look at chat for a while. But yeah, so just that's what we have to look at. Come on, computer. All right, there we go. All right, because I still want to read some scriptures and stuff in here because it really ties in with everything. So yeah, so do your research when there's weather. If somebody says there's extreme cold and be aware, you know, definitely be aware in your area. You should always be prepared regardless. Oh boy, I just totally exited out everything. Oh man, that sucks. Oh well, that's okay. But you know, I mean, no matter where you live at, you know, you should always be prepared and listen. You know, if there's going to be a cold front coming in, you know, just make sure you got blankets and pillows and heat, and you know, if the heat goes out, you know, that's why you have more blankets and food and all that stuff. You know, just be prepared, just be ready for anything. You know, and you know, one of the frustrating things about where we're at in the world is a lack of trees. You know, we have fires because we don't have trees, because oh man, my computer's totally dead. Oh well, okay. So anyway, so that's why we have so many fires, is because the trees are gone. You know, the United States has just annihilated America. It's annihilated America, and it's been trying to annihilate other parts of the world, you know, tearing down all the trees. You know, we used to have humongous trees all over the place. And when you have trees, the big tall trees we used to have, right? I think it's in California, I believe, that has the some of the biggest trees in the world. I don't remember what they're called offhand. But if you have all these trees, it creates moisture. It creates, you know, just go to rainforest. You know, just go to rainforest. You know, that's a perfect example. You know, it creates the conditions that the world needs to create harvest and all that stuff, because you need that moisture. You need that oxygen from plants and trees. You know, and once you cut them down, all that oxygen is gone and everything depletes. You know, and that's what these elite want to do, is to run. The way to run this planet is to eliminate the population, right? You know, I've talked about this before with population, is that everybody is staying in these big cities and not migrating out, right? In Wyoming, we have lots of land that's just empty. You know, it's owned. I mean, even though land really shouldn't be owned, but, you know, it's owned by the reservation. And we have all this land all over the place, but people are just migrating into these cities and overpopulating it. People are homeless because of it. You know, they have a choice to leave. They can leave if they choose to. I think some people just choose to be homeless just because, you know, they don't want to pick themselves off their feet. But, you know, I've never been in that situation, but I do know, you know, if that ever happened to me, I would be looking some way, shape, or form to get myself back up on my feet. Some people just give up on life. So yeah, so let me see if I can open a new window and try to get this going again. Let's see here. There we go. I pretty much had all the windows lost, but that's all right. So let's go ahead and we'll talk about the wall again. To me personally, I really do feel that they're getting ready for something. You know, the United States, Trump, has been talking with the Russian leader, right? You know, they've been buddies before the presidency, and they're buddies now. And their concerns were over nuclear, right? Was over nuclear. I'm not going to say the whole word because then your video gets flagged. But it was always talk about nuclear, and atomics as well. But if you look into the definition of nuclear, and I've read a little bit of it, nuclear involves genetics. It involves genetics. So I mean, you know, as a whole, you know, that's basically what nuclear would be, you know, and no matter what you do, it would be some kind of a virus or genetic manipulation of some kind, right? But if you do research again, which is quite interesting, you know, you look at these elements that there's these crafts that are going to these bases. You do research, you find it all over the internet. Some of it's fake, some of it's real, but it's out there. And a lot of people, you know, and if you go into deep meditation, you're finding out that there really is no more harmful missiles that can hurt humanity anymore. For humanity is being protected right now. Humanity is being protected right now. And so, you know, thinking about that and thinking of what the word nuclear means, it can go into the process of genetic manipulation. And this goes into human trafficking, and missing people and so on and so forth, is genetic research. You know, this has been going on since the dawn of time. You know, the Egyptians did it, and then people, you know, the generations before that as well, always did some kind of genetic manipulation. Even the Bible talks about genetic manipulation, the creation of humanity, right? You know, where we're to believe, you know, that there was a God that walked the earth, right? That walked the earth, that created humanity, you know, and at the end of the day, that is also symbolizes a doctor or a scientist who would create these human beings, right? So I mean, if you got Adam and Eve and they weren't kids, they were adults right away, that would mean that they were growing in a test tube, right? You know, they say that, you know, we're born from the dust of the earth. Well, you do further analysis on that, and that would be genetics. That would be genetics. So that would be messing with the atoms and the neurons and the protons and all that stuff, right? And I believe that's what atomics are made out of. Atoms and atomics are the same thing as well. Is made of neurons and protons, which is exactly what we are made of as well. So, you know, when it says the dust of the earth, you know, humanity was made genetically, and it still goes on to this very day. And, you know, I really do believe that that is what is going on. So when they talk about nuclear trades and things of that nature, I really believe it's human trafficking. And they're just exchanging their research, you know. And this brings into a very, very deep matter, is why the genetics, you know, why the manipulation, you know, what are they trying to cause? I mean, personally, you know, you should be paying attention to what you're eating, because there's a lot of crap that shouldn't be in there. If there's something you can't pronounce, you shouldn't be eating it. You know, if it's green beans, it's just be green beans, not have 30 other things attached to it. It's so frustrating trying to find French fries, and there's like 30 ingredients, and there's like, dude, it's potatoes, man, potatoes, just potatoes and some sea salt. Life is good, right? But no, you got to realize, you know, that all that stuff you put in your body messes with your genetics. And, you know, there's so many people that say, well, it's the mindset. It's the mindset. No, once you put it in your body, it's a chemical reaction. And I'm going to be making a video here, hopefully in the next video, talking about science and magic and alchemy, and how it's all one and the same. You know, they've divided it to cover up the trails of what it really is. But, you know, it's alchemy. You know, they're performing alchemy on you. You know, that's what I don't think it's biology, but it's a form of it. With science, you know, with how you mix all these compounds together, you mix the wrong ones, you're going to end up having an explosion in your face, right? You know, that's what happens inside your body. Same way with Western or American, or excuse me, the United States pharmaceuticals is all voodoo. It's all voodoo medicine. You know, they say, oh, you can be happy and be cured of this thing, but then they'll read you like 15 side effects of vomiting and blood clots and all that stuff, you know. And if you listen and pay attention to that, that is voodoo. That is magic. That is putting a curse on you. That is putting a curse on you. Your body is not designed to have that. If you're putting something in your body and you have a side effect, it is not designed to be within your body. So anyway, so getting back to the wall, that's where the nuclear trading thing I feel is coming into play. And I really do think that building this wall is going to create the dividing that America needs to further their plans, you know, whether it be, you know, the world leaders leave and then leave us here, or they're building the wall to further their agenda. It's hard to say, you know, what agenda, whose agenda, you know, who is a part of this agenda, right? You know, people always want to blame the president or the Democrats or the Republicans, things of that nature. But who is above them? Who is running the strings, right? You know, I talk about the Archon system. You know, you run the banks, you run the churches, and you run the strongest military. That's the Archon system. So it's not the presidency and things like that that run the system. It is the military, the scientific research, the alchemy, and the magic that run the system. Alchemy and magic is a big deal when it comes to this reality. It's truly uncanny on how much magic is used. Let me open some of these scriptures up because I really want to talk about this stuff. Wormwood is a good example too. We're going to be talking about wormwood as well. It's talked about in the Bible. I believe 7 times, at least 7 times, wormwood is talked about. And wormwood translates into curse or bitterness, to curse or bitterness. So in Revelations, you know how it talks about this meteor hitting the water, right? Boom, hitting the water, and creating devastation and whatnot. You know, it's making humanity, everything symbolic. You know, it's putting a curse on humanity. It's making the waters bitter. But the waters, again, are symbolisms of the spirit, or your essence, right? The ether, you know, making the ether bitter, where we have all of these lawless, confused ones that don't know what to do or where to go, things like that. So, you know, people always read everything out of context, thinking, you know, oh, we're waiting for a meteor to hit the earth, and then that's a sign of the end times, right? And that's never what the Bible was intended to be. You know, that's what I always say. You know, life is more spiritual than it is physical. But because people focus so much on the delightfulness of this world, right? The delightfulness of this world or this image, they lose touch with that spiritual essence, because, you know, they don't see the energy and the synergy that surrounds them, right? The perfect example I've ever heard is the wind, right? Is the wind. You can't see the wind, but you know it's there. You feel it. You sense it. You can smell it. It's there. You can't see it, but it's there. So that's the essence of energy and synergy that's around us. You know, we can't see it, but we know it's there. We know within our core that there is something more to us. There's something more to us, you know, that goes into empathic abilities and things of that nature. All right, let me go through my history here and open up some of the things here, because yeah, always love to look up scriptures. So I got scriptures on the nuclear, atoms, wormwood, and they're quite fascinating. And at the end of the day, it's all about maturity. Knowledge and wisdom is key, you know. And you look at some of the gods back in the day, and they always carried the serpent. It wasn't just Moses that carried the serpent. It wasn't just the serpent that was in the Garden of Eden, right? You know, all of these gods worshipped the serpent. You know, the serpents are everywhere, on every temple and pyramid. It's always been the serpent or the dragon, the serpent or the dragon. And it's just a symbolism of knowledge and wisdom. Oh no, it's the reptilians. They're going to come to get us, right? But no, it's knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom is power, man. It's power. And you know, and Trump said it best, man. You know, he said to journalists, you know, you're too stupid to comprehend what's going on. You're too stupid to comprehend what's going on. Because people take everything literally and not symbolically. That's what I said. These words are symbolic. Nuclear, atomic, climate change, global warming. They're symbolic of change. And global warming, we'll go ahead and talk about that further. You know, global warming, it isn't about that the earth is heating up in terms of that we're going to be melted by the sun, right? We're going to be melted by the sun. I've never been to space. Don't know what space looks like. But I have this feeling, and you do research on inner Earth, is that each planet has its own sun built within. How does that work? How does the reflection work? I don't know. It's hard to say on how that works. It could be a light. We could have a dome, and I've talked about this before. We have a dome over the Earth, and you can do different layers of the dome, right? You do different layers of the dome. You look into on how greenhouses are built, or dome structures are built, and how they create them as greenhouses and things like that. They create artificial sun that produces the same vitamins and minerals as a real sun. It can be done. It can happen. And I almost guarantee you that's what's happening up there as well. So it has nothing to do with the sun. It doesn't. It has something to do with the energy, with the synergy. And I really do feel that when they talk about global warming, they're talking about the rise of the energy within people, that crystal Christ being coming out, right? If you read the Bible and you read about Christ's resurrection, on how he resurrected, and how his disciples did not recognize him, right? They didn't recognize him. But Christ showed them the scars on his palms, right? Then they realized that it was Christ, right? And it's hard to say what Christ looked like, but I would say Christ more than likely looked like a rainbow or shiny being, a crystal being. That was his true essence, and it came down to show his disciples, hey, this is the next life, and I will be with you continuously. Just call upon my name. It's hidden symbolisms. It's all symbolic. The Bible, there's so much you can take from that. But at the end of the day, there is so many symbolisms and parables within there that really makes you realize what it's talking about. Christ went to his disciples to show them his faith that he had with his Father, and the worshiping and that dedication that he had with God, that brought him to that state of being, and that's what he showed the disciples, right? And it got twisted, and they ended up worshiping Christ instead of going, oh, hey, I can become a crystal being too. If I walk like Christ and follow his teachings, I can become a crystal being too. And then I can rise up and be with God, or be with the Father, or the Mother again, right? And the hidden symbolism of the hand is the same thing, right? They show the scars because of the cross, right? Well, if you really do research, you'll learn that if you really did hammer a nail in your hand, it would slip out. Your skin would rip, and you would fall off. So they would have to nail it somewhere in here, probably because there's a bone in here that has layers that's open. They would probably have to do it within here somewhere. So when they talk about the symbolisms of the hand, that's the energy, that's the synergy, right? Look into the palms of energy. It's hidden symbolisms within there. People don't really think about this. They don't question it. They don't look at this stuff. They don't. But Christ's teachings have remained in there, and it's amazing on how that stuff remained, because they could have took it out. There's a lot of things that were taken out of the Bible. But you just got to do research into it. Let's see here. Same way with the word Jerusalem. Let me pop that up real quick. I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, but I'm getting ready to read the scriptures here. So, but the word Jerusalem, the meaning is heritage of peace, right? Jerusalem is the heritage of peace. And so many people think that it's the physical Jerusalem in the Middle East, but it's really symbolic. Jerusalem is symbolic of peace. You know, you walk with God, you walk with Christ, you're going to discover that peace within yourself, that peace within your mind, that peace within your heart. And that's what you have to focus on, is the spiritual side of self, not the physical side. You know, there's a reason why they always talk about Jerusalem and Sirius, which, you know, Sirius, they talk about Sirius. Israel, you know, the god Ra, you know, it's named after Ra and El. Israel, Ra and El. You know, they're all symbolic, and people focus on the physical elements of it and not the spiritual elements of it. You know, where that's what we're supposed to be doing, is going within the self, not being distracted by all these chaotic people that have drinking the waters of wormwood, right? Drinking the waters of wormwood. And it's interesting, it's also called wormwood because, you know, worms are associated with parasites as well. So people have parasites within their bodies and being controlled and manipulated. They know not what they do. You know, people don't know what they do. You know, they just do it out of irrational, immature nature. You know, sexual preference is a huge thing as well, because people are living within the lower self, right? Sexual preference is living within the lower self. So to reach the higher self, or the higher level of self, you got to go up to the heart, which would be the fifth dimension. People are learning about the heart space now. And then you got to climb up the mountain, which is what I want to talk about next video, is you got to climb up the mountain, which is the dome, which is your dome, which is the temple, the all-seeing eye, the Ra, where you talk with God, you know, the story of the fig tree, the fire, talking with the igniting of the fire within you. It's all symbolic. It's crazy, man. It really is, on how it all just kind of ties together. And it's based on research. You know, that's what I've discovered personally. And then I've heard people's testimonies talking about the same thing, their own personal self-discovery of what this means. It's all about the inner growth and healing of the self, and to be prepared to move on to the next life, You know, death is a big one. Death is definitely something I really need to talk about in another video. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you should be preparing for the next life, you know, because you never know when you'll be taken. You know, what are you going to be prepared for? You know, are you going to be tested in the fourth dimensional plane of reality? There's all these trials that take place, you know, Again, people focus so much on this physical reality, they're not prepared for the next life. They're not prepared of what goes on the other side. You know, how much energy, how much juice do you have truly on the other side? The world, the flip side of things. And that's what I'm all about, you know, is to help you guys get back within the self, you know, but people still focus on what's going on outside. So yeah, so Jerusalem, the heritage of peace. All right, so let me see what I got up here. So I go ahead, I'll read the scriptures on wormwood because there's very few of them. But Revelations 8, 10, 11. The third angel blew its trumpet, and a great star fell from the heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is wormwood, which is curse or bitterness. A third of the waters became wormwood, which the third of the waters became cursed and bitter, and many people died spiritually from the water because it had been made bitter. Spiritually, people have died because they have drinking the waters of humanity and the waters of deceit and lies and all of that stuff, right? All of that stuff. You know, the beast fell into the waters. And that's what it says in the Bible, that the prince of darkness, right, the prince of air, runs humanity. And what is the prince of air? Is the ether. The ether has been manipulated and has been altered from its true dark matter presence. So when you look at wormwood, it is a curse and bitterness. People have drinking it and died because they focus so much on this physical reality instead of the spiritual reality. Proverbs 5:3-5. For the lips of a forbidden woman dripped honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, or cursed. She is bitter and cursed. Sharp as a two-edged sword, which means lies and truths within more lies. Her feet go down to death. Her steps follow the path of the Sheol, which I believe translates into darkness, I believe. I'm not too sure. But at the end of the day, you have to be aware of the seduction and the seduction, of people in your life. They use a woman because of the power of that, and how a man, right? It's different nowadays, but on how a man can be so easily seduced from the sweetness of her lips, right? The sweetness of her lips, and the power of the red dress, right? That double-edged sword. It says right in there too, Christ will come back with a double-edged sword, which means that there would be two Christs. And that's something you got to do research on. There'll be two Christs. There'll be the false prophet Christ, right? The false Messiah. And then there'll be the true Christ. There'll be the double-edged sword. The people that truly know on what spirituality is, what energy is, synergy is, and all of that stuff, and bringing you back into the I am of self. Those are the ones that you're looking for, as the ones that encourage you to go within the self and to stop listening to human people, human teachings, and just go back home, go back into nature, go back within the self. That is the true Christ helping you and aiding you into going back inside. The double-edged sword for the false prophet is the one that runs the world, that runs the churches, that creates the chain of command and all that stuff, right? These pastors are the gods of the earth. These popes are the gods of the earth. These bishops are the guardian angels of the earth. You guys don't think about that. All of these humans are trying to play gods on earth. They're trying to play gods on earth. They can say, well, God said this and God said this and that. And you look into the laws. Well, this is the law of God, right? It's not the law of the universe. It is the law of man. The laws of man and the God of men have created their own laws because they feel that they are gods. They're the gods of this physical reality. And it's deep, man. It's real talk right there. Let's see here. Jeremiah 9:15. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed these people with bitter food, negative energy, and give them poisonous waters to drink. And basically, it's letting you know of all of these demons, or inner self, right? This goes into past lives too, on how people get so deceived by choice, that they lose track, they lose faith, they lose patience in life. There's people that have come to Christ, and fellowshiped with Christ, but then fell away because of hardships within their life, and And, we've all come through that. I've had my darkest moment in life, and, I felt like I wanted to end it all. But Christ came to me, and I listened, right? He said, I've always been here for you, always. You just had to ask. And I listened, and I trusted in that voice. I trusted in that voice. The things would be laid out for me, that there was a reason for what was happening in my life, but so many people get depressed and lose sight and lose track of their spiritual essence because of a lack of knowledge and wisdom of it. We're not taught this stuff unless if you go into the Freemasons or into magic or witchcraft or things of that nature. But you get taught the negative side of witchcraft and the negative side of magic, right? There's a double-edged sword within witchcraft and magic as well. It's something you don't play around with. You do not play around with magic. I saw the most dumbest thing on Facebook that they're making Ouija boards that are Christian based, that are angelic based. A Ouija board's a Ouija board. I was like, what in tarnation? Humans are so foolish, man. And it's I mean, we're in a human body, right? But the reason why I say humans are foolish, because it is the programs that humanity has made for itself. It is the programs that humanity has made for itself. It has all been about the movie It. The clown, the fool, right? The clown, the fool, the foolish people that follow books and books and books instead of looking within the I Am. Taking that time out of your day to go back into the I Am and climb up the mountain to have a conversation with the higher self or with God. It's getting deep. This can definitely be in a lot deeper than I thought it would. And that's the power of the Spirit. The Spirit's going to speak through you of whatever needs to be talked about. And it's, that's just what happened. I had to be extremely patient with this video. Holy moly. I was been trying to go live since 6 o'clock this morning. It's 9:53 now. So I had to be real patient. So I was just sitting, I was letting my computer run. Ended up playing my Nintendo Switch and everything, just being patient. I'm like, I'm not going to give up. The spirits tell me I have to make a video. So I was extremely patient, and it paid off. I mean, look what's being told, right? And it's not, don't look at me as the one that's giving you the truth, but realize what is coming out of my mouth is of the Spirit. It's of the Spirit. It is for you to do research within the self. When you take this stuff with you, don't go, oh, okay, well, Adam said this, Adam said that. No, the Spirit has led you here, and you had ears to hear what the Spirit says. And that's key. And that's where you need to do research. That's where you can look to your Bible. You do research online, whatever it is to help you get back to the Spirit. That's my goal, and that's what needs to be taken from this video. Let's see here. I think they're starting to get into different stuff here, but Revelation 6:8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death. And this gets interesting, and I'll bring this up here. And its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him, the underworld, and they were given authority over a fourth of the earth to destroy with a sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. We're already living in that now. We're already living in that now. People don't realize it. And you go back to Genesis. Revelation's is the end of the book. You go back to Genesis. It's the same thing. They were in the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Delight. Everything was good, beautiful. And then they got cast out onto the earth. They got cast down into the underworld, right? The lower self. And it's full circle right here. And what happened is that they were in a land of desert, and they had to fend for themselves. They had to go through pain and thirst and all that stuff. And they had to go through famine. They had to go through pestilence. And they had to fight off the beasts of the earth. And that's from a political standpoint. That's from nature. It's from nature. We're already there. We're already there. People don't realize that that is what this earth is. We are living within the lower self, learning on how to rise up and wise up into the higher self, the higher potential of your spiritual essence. And death, what is this death? Death comes to us because life is limited. This body is limited. So yeah, you're going to always have that pale horse behind you waiting for you to cross over to the next life. And that's it. People blow all this stuff out of context, waiting for this stuff to happen, thinking this stuff is going to happen. It's part of daily life. It's a part of daily life. So when people are talking about gloom and doom, they just want their life to end. They miss the whole point of what Christ was all about. It was about love, respect, learning how to reconnect spiritually, and all of this stuff, man. And it's amazing, man. Let's see. Earlier on, John was talking about Memphis weather. It's one day it's 20 and the next day it's 70. Yep, that's Wyoming weather too, man. It will snow in June and then it'll be summer the next day, man. It's crazy. But man, it's crazy, man, on how we can get so distracted by what the churches tell us, by the gods of the earth, the pastors and the popes and all that stuff. We get so distracted on what they think they know what the Bible is, and when in all reality, the Bible is the book of life. We are born into this world. We go through struggles, trials, and tribulations, and then we go through revelations of our lives, and then we talk with our guide, and then we go through death. We go through death, which is just the crossing over into the next life. The crossing over into the next life. So that's deep, man. I mean, that's even a revelation for me right there. And that's why it's called Revelations. So, yeah. So, and this one's really interesting as well. 2 Timothy 3:1. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. In the last days of your life will come times of difficulty, because you realize, wow, this has turned out to be a different video, but you realize as your time gets short here, that you're going to be leaving your loved ones. You know, you're going to be leaving your loved ones. You know, you see your loved ones leave in front of your eyes. Eventually, it's going to happen to you. You know, and you got to be ready. You got to be ready. I think that's one of the beautiful things, you know, that still remains, you know, is that there will be a pastor that will come to you to help you and comfort you in your last days. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you're right, you'll have no issues, right? You know, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready. You know, I mean, to me, there is no such thing as death. It's just leaving this body, going into the next life. Going to the next life, this next experience. The soul continues on. Creation continues on. You want to live and grow and build life and creation, the soul will continue on. But if that soul is destructive in nature, that soul can't move on. It can't. So it will have to remain in its own turmoil. But if the soul is full of love and creation, it's going to continue on. So you should have no problem going into the next life, for therefore life is eternal. Life is full of peace, right? What is Jerusalem? Is the heritage of peace. You know, learning about having a peace of mind. A sound soul creates a sound mind and a sound body. I don't know where that came from, but I first heard it on Soul Eater, the anime Soul Eater. A sound soul creates a sound mind and a sound body. And that's where we have to be. We have to be prepared daily. You know, it should never be a fear of leaving, but a joyous occasion of going back to the ethers, going back to the dark matter energy. And again, look into dark matter energy. That's the very foundation of life. And science is hinting at that. And at the end of the day, you're going to discover that the darkness is really home. The darkness is home. And it scares people when they think about that. Oh no, the darkness isn't home, man. But it's that quiet state. It's that peaceful state. The light is the delightfulness of creation. This is the delightfulness of creation. But it can also be the false light, right? That goes into Lucifer, the light barrier, the light bringer, the creation of life. So it gets deep. It really does, man. Let's see. I'm gonna read one more, and then we'll see what else the Spirit says here. So 1 John 2:1 through 29. My little children, that's all of humanity, I am writing these things to you so that you may not sin, that you may not fall into confusion. But if anyone does fall into confusion, we have an advocate, which is the Father, which is God, the Elohim, Christ, the righteousness. He is the propitiation of our sins. I probably just said that word wrong. For our sins, and not of ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world, the confusion of the whole world. And by this we know that we have come to know Christ. We have come to know the I Am within. If we keep the commandments, which also look into the laws of Mayat and Kemet. Look at the laws of Mayat. It further expands the 10 Commandments. Whoever says, I know him, but does not keep his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoever keeps his word, in him truly the love of God, the Elohim, the higher self, is perfected. By this we may know that we are in him, that we know that we are connected, we are one. We are one. That's powerful, man. That's beautiful. What else we got here? Man, I really feel like I need to end this video. I probably should. So at the end of the day, there's so much more I could talk about. But at the end of the day, that's where, and this kind of just folds and plays out, is that we have to come home. We have to come home and back into the I Am. There's going to be so many distractions. The world's still going to be crazy. It's still chaotic. There's no lovey-dovey stuff happening yet, right? And it may not be for a while. But we can create that love within our lives. We can create that experience, that spiritual encounter right now within the I Am. We have that choice. We can be distracted by the political viewpoints of life and all of the hidden code words that our politicians and presidents and the world leaders want us to believe and follow. But again, you go back to the words of Trump. You're too stupid to know. You don't think. You don't do your research. So don't be that stupid person. Do your research. Rise up and wise up. Becomes best friends with the serpent of knowledge and wisdom. The one that's not going to deceive you, but the one that brings you closer and back home to the I Am within you. The serpent is symbolic, man. It's the Kundalini. It's the Eye of Ra. There's so many hidden symbolisms within everything. You look into Anu, you look into Apsu, the waters of life, that dark matter energy, man, that universal womb of creation, the universal womb of creation. The universe is a big womb, right? And if you view planets, if planets are round, then they can be little eggs that are in the uterus, right? Little eggs that are in the uterus, and they grow and blossom. Creation, it gets so deep. That's why I always call it's the mother, man. The mother always takes care of her children. The mother always does, and the father's job is to teach them how to to live in life, right? You know, and that's where the father aspect comes in, is that the father will teach you about life. The mother gives birth to you, and then the father teaches you about life. And then when you go and talk with your mom, she teaches you about love and respect. And your dad, you know, and this is kind of like the perfect family element here, and the dad will sit down and teach you about, you know, sticking up for yourself and sticking up for your friends and family, being respectful, teaching you about honor and things like that. You know, that's the true essence of what a mother and a father is. And spiritually, that goes in the same way. You know, it gets deep on so many levels. So we have to come back home. And that's always what the Spirit always tells me, is we have to come back home. We have to come back into the I am, and we have to not be swallowed up in the death that surrounds us, in the confusion that surrounds us, in that wormwood that people have drinking from and continue to drink from, the bitter waters, the cursed waters of this land. You know, the natives have talked about the cursed land and things like that. It's there.